Closing day is so exciting for buyers, especially if it's their first home or a home that they're really excited to purchase. So a couple of things that you'll need to do as the buyer's agent as you're getting ready for closing, on closing day itself, and then a few things to know for after closing. So as you're getting ready for closing, a couple things to check. First of all, is your opportunity in command approved? Have you submitted all of the documents, made any corrections on any returns, gotten any additional amendments written? You'll want to make sure that that opportunity is fully approved prior to closing because that's how you're going to get paid. So double check that. Make sure that you have a chance to grab any of those last minute documents as well. Has your commissions been submitted in command as well? So in that opportunity, you'll go to the commissions tab, walk through the process of entering in the offer and then the commissions, submit that, have that approved prior to your closing as well. Then what you're also going to want to do is you're going to get a copy of the initial closing statement. And you're going to get this probably several times throughout as you're preparing to close throughout the week or so before closing, as there may be small edits as we get closer to closing day. So you're going to want to check that closing statement. You're going to want to make sure that you see the earnest money amount is correct and reflected on there. If your buyer was getting a credit as part of a transaction, that credit is reflected on there as well. If there was a home warranty that's being paid for as part of closing, you're going to want to make sure that that home warranty is reflected on the closing statement as well. And you're going to want to just double check that commissions are correct. So a couple of things, the prorations for taxes and sewer and water and everything, the title company is pros at handling that, but you're going to want to make sure that anything transaction specific that you're checking to make sure that that is accurately reflected on the closing statement. If it's not, reach out to the title company. Maybe they didn't get a copy of an amendment, or maybe something was missed. So you're going to want to make sure that everybody has all the pieces of putting that together. Then once your buyer has communicated when and where they'll be closing, you're going to want to make sure that everyone knows. Sometimes a buyer will look to you to schedule closing. Sometimes they'll look to the lender. It's usually communication between all parties. Sometimes you'll hear, hey, great news, I scheduled closing from the lender. Sometimes the buyer will ask you and the lender is expecting to hear it from you. So just confirming that, hey, have we set a day or time and a place to make sure that we are good to go. And you're going to want to make sure that all parties know this. So once that time and place are selected, you're going to want to, as the buyer's agent, communicate that with the listing agent because they're going to need to let the title company handling seller side know where they need to be and when. So make sure that everyone's on the same page about when that is being scheduled. Usually one of your final steps prior to closing is scheduling final walkthrough. So that happens within 3 days of closing. And that's the buyer's chance to make sure that any of if there were any repairs that were negotiated, were done. And to make sure that nothing has changed since the last time you were in the house, except for the better, hopefully. Normal wear and tear happens, but this is the chance to make sure that as the sellers moved out, was there any damage done? I've gone to final walkthroughs and seen that, hey, maybe some repair that we negotiated, I was told we were done. We got a receipt that it was done and it wasn't done to the buyer's satisfaction. I know of people who have had water appear in the basement after their inspection that showed up at their final walkthrough. That's a chance to figure out, is this something that the buyer's okay with moving forward? Ultimately, most of the time this appointment is super simple, very easy, 15-minute, just a quick walkthrough, making sure that everything looks good. Occasionally something will come up that's a big deal, and that's why you have that final walkthrough. Don't skip it. Even if the buyer's not in town, make sure that you go on their behalf, grab some pictures and video, make sure that everything looks good for them. So don't skip that final walkthrough. I don't love to do it on the day of closing personally, because then if there is an issue, it doesn't leave us time to figure out how to resolve it. So I like to do the day before if possible, but sometimes day of or sometimes earlier within that 3 days is when we end up doing it. Ultimately, sometimes buyers will look to you. They'll always look to you if there is an issue, but what do I do about this? And the question is really, what needs to happen to have them feel comfortable with showing up at closing and signing documents? So, was it that, hey, we noticed a small plumbing leak at the final walkthrough that wasn't there before? Maybe we can take care of this with a simple, hey, seller's going to credit buyer an extra $200. and then buyer will take care of it after closing. Sometimes it's bigger stuff, just making sure that we have a plan for how to take care of it. Your question for that final walkthrough too will be, how are keys going to get to closing? So what I like to do when I'm scheduling the final walkthrough with my buyers is ask the listing agent, hey, would you like me to grab your keys and lockbox? Sometimes they'll say just the keys, I'll come get the lockbox. Sometimes they say, no, we need the keys to be there longer. So just communicating, do you want me to pick up the key so that I can take it to closing? This key does not go to the buyers, of course, before closing, but are you going to be the one responsible for taking it to closing, or will the listing agent? If they ask you to take the lockbox as well, you can give that to them at closing. If they don't attend, you can give it to their title company and they'll make sure it gets back to them. So just make sure you know how keys are getting there. Usually that final walkthrough is the easiest time to make sure that we're figuring that out. Then you should be all ready for closing. Exciting. Closing day itself. Best practice is to attend closing with your buyer. If you can't make it, it's nice to have somebody else that you know be there on your behalf, just to be supportive. That's really our role at closing. Is I don't present anything. I'm not having them sign anything, but I am there for questions. I am there to be supportive. Sometimes I have had a couple times that I've written a last minute amendment at the closing table. So even if you are not there at closing, make sure that you are available if another agent is on your behalf. Make sure keys are there. If there are garage door openers or anything else, sometimes people will just give you the one key to get in and everything else to be left in the house. But you'll also want to make sure that you have any garage codes. Maybe it's helpful to know when garbage day is going to be next. Is it a rotating garbage day or is it always garbage day? Any of those little things to know. That's kind of your role, is to help figure out that transition into closing itself. It's nice to prepare a closing gift or a thank you note ahead of time, so you can have that for your buyer at closing. Don't go crazy with this. I've seen people spend hundreds of dollars on a closing gift. Something small and thoughtful is great. If you can make it personal, a little thank you note to go with it too. If you know that the buyer's doing a lot of renovations on the home, maybe something like a Home Depot gift card. But otherwise, I've seen people do like little custom candles or, just some cute, welcome mat. Anything that seems like it's going to be personal to your client and memorable is nice to do. Is it required? No, not at all, but it is nice. At least a thank you note is nice. So be supportive of your client, be there for questions. Closing takes about an hour. Some of that time is signing. Some of that is sometimes then waiting. We call it waiting for funding. So usually the first 20 to 30 minutes is going to be going through documents and having that explanation, and the client is going to be signing. I usually sit kind of closer to the end. I'm not in the mix. I'm not part of the signing process. I'm just here to be supportive. And then some lenders, they'll have a time that they'll send those documents to the underwriting department to just double check that all of the signatures happen, and then they'll release the funds. Some banks don't have to do that, and maybe you're done sooner. Sometimes it can take a while if you have something like you're waiting for the wire or the funds to come through. Sometimes there's just small delays. So an hour is a good ballpark. Sometimes you'll be done in like 45 minutes. Sometimes it'll be more than an hour. But that's when your buyer is going to get the keys. They don't get the keys until everything is good to go. The title company comes back usually then with checks or with a signed closing statement and says, hey, you bought a house. And that is the time that the buyer gets the keys. For a bonus, this is also a great time to grab a photo with your client. So grab either with them or with the keys. That sometimes people bring a sold sign with them. Grabbing that photo for social media is a great thing. As long as some buyers aren't comfortable with it, that's totally fine. But if you can, that's an awesome opportunity to have that, that just little extra bonus. I always send them a copy of it too. I text it to them after. I take it with my phone so that I have a copy of it. Grab a couple of shots so you make sure they look good, and then text it to them afterwards. Tell them congratulations. And then you can post it on social media and write a little story about, hey, they bought a house. How exciting for them. And then after closing itself, you're going to get a copy of the check and the signed closing statement. So that's going to be something that you're going to bring to the office. You want to bring that as quickly as possible. So like if you close, especially if you're near the end of the month, you're going to want to bring that in, hopefully same day. Otherwise, like the next day, bring that to the office. There's a little bin under the front desk at Southwest where you turn that in. The great news is that the office, the front desk staff is going to scan that for you, and they're going to upload that to command. So you don't have to do anything in that closed little tab in opportunities. The office is going to upload that for you. So you'll always have a copy of the signed closing statement and the check. You'll also find in there they're gonna upload a copy of your dispersal agreement that says how the breakdown of how you got paid. So if there are any questions, all those documents will be there in command. Once the signed closing statement is and the check are brought to the office and your opportunity is approved, that's how you're going to get paid. So the check has to be here and the opportunity has to be approved, and then you'll get paid usually within a day, pretty quickly. What you're going to want to do is go in and update your buyer's contact card. You're going to want to update their address. You're going to want to add any extra tags and any notes. So make sure that you take that time to update. I said opportunity, but it's really your buyer's contact card. As a bonus, at the end of the year or the start of the new year, as buyers are starting to gather their tax documents for the year, usually their tax preparer will ask them for a copy of their closing statement for tax time. A great thing to do, a great touch for the start of the year, is that you can either print a copy of that closing statement, make a copy of it before you turn it in, and send them a physical copy in the mail. Or some people will save a PDF of the closing statement and email it to them at tax time and just say, hey, you're going to need this. Otherwise, they're probably going to ask you for it. Sometimes buyers will say, hey, my CPA would like a copy of this tax form. Then just reach out to the title company and they'll be able to help with a copy of that. So some things to do as you're getting ready for closing, at the closing table itself, and then after closing to help set you up for success for continued referrals and success with your buyer clients. You want to make sure that we're landing the finish, we're sticking the jump there. I don't know, I'm not a gymnast, but we want to make sure that we finish strong. So even if the entire process has been super smooth from the buyers from start to finish, we want to make sure that finish is great for them too. So congrats on the closing at that point. That's what you get to say to them. And that's what we say to you is congratulations. Hopefully you'll have many of these closings to work through and you'll get to go to many closing days and find that success for your buyers.